it's fitting. I've started the women's ice hockey question, so I'll be reporter. Volleyball question, I'll be reporter
That is
too.
how they design it, yeah.
What creates offense?
Defense.
What creates defense?
Offense.
No, the goal in the back of the net.
So you're crazy. I like you, but you're crazy because
If these people are going to pick a trap game, pick the right ones.
Little fast footwork. I know your feet don't move that fast.
Brady, that's all flash, no pass. She didn't net it in the back of the net. That's not even a
What are you
goal.
doing coming out, Ryan? Brady,
Are you ready for some debate? This Bobcat Breakdown starts right now.
Welcome to another episode of Bobcat Breakdown. I'm your host, Olivia Gruber, and alongside me are my two analysts, Connor Corer and Brandon Murdoch. Are you guys looking forward to an exciting show tonight?
Yeah, I'm super excited. A lot of facts-based stuff that's going to be happening. Not a whole lot of debate because, we have Brandon on air as well. So.
Real confident early, but we'll see how it goes by the end of the night.
All right, well, let's get right into the debate of the night. Men's basketball split their two-game weekend, beating Quinnipiac on Thursday by a score of 89-71, but then lost to Niagara on Saturday, 76-75, despite Amari Monroe and Paul Otieno combining for 50 points. How does this team learn from their mistakes and find out ways to close out games? Connor, how about you start us off?
Yeah, I feel like the easiest way is just simply not look at the MAAC standings the rest of the year. Honestly, plain and simple. Every game you know is going to be a dogfight. This men's basketball team is ranked second in the entire conference right now, heading into next weekend. They've yet to clinch this playoff berth. Like you see on the full screen right now. They only scored 38 points against Niagara and 47 against Quinnipiac. Quite frankly, they should have been able to blow out both of those teams, bottom two, and going into that weekend against the Bobcats. And it's inexcusable to lose how they did against Niagara and only win by a small margin against Quinnipiac with how much they were able to retain from last year's team.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely been a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde kind of team. But I think it starts with perimeter defense and overall better defensive guard play. Head coach Tom McCourt talked about how the likes of Jaden Zimmerman, even still young, needs to build up his defensive ability, has to play better defense. And to start, because with the amount of good guard play in the MAAC, Adam Clark from Merrimack, who scored 20 points the last time these two teams played, the Jory Reed from Iona, who scored 16 points for these teams against this team the last time they played. Those are two top five scorers in the MAAC. Even though those were both wins for the Bobcats, if they don't settle up or don't buckle up defensively and play better against those guys, it could be even more, and it could lead to an early exit for these guys. And also, even in the loss, there's a bit of hope because even though for the most of this season, even though they lost Niagara, they had their highest shooting percentage of the three-point shooting percentage of the season with 50%. And this is a team that shot almost historically bad this season from beyond the arc. So if that's a trend, if that's a trend we continue to see, there'll be a problem moving forward.
Yeah, like I said earlier, they're gonna have to have a problem target on their back the rest of the season. You know, they only beat Quinnipiac by 18, Their biggest lead against was Niagara was only 12 the entire year. And like I said, they were the bottom two teams in the entire conference. You know, you and I were women's soccer beat reporters, and you knew this was coming at one point. It's right off the top of the show. But Dave Clark always talked to us throughout the entire season about wanting to score more. You have 2 goals. All right, we're going to get 3. We're going to get 4. That's how this Bobcats men's basketball team needs to continue to play later in these last 7-8 games of the season. They're going to have to keep playing. All right, we're up by 15. We're up by 20. We got to go for 25. We have to go to 30 because you can never know, especially with how bad they've shot so far from behind the arc, how another team can get back into the game very easily, no matter how much time is left on the game.
Moving on from the men's team to the women's team, last week on the show, the analysts talked about the ways women's basketball needs to find secondary scoring behind Gal-Revive. This weekend, Carson Martin scored 18 and 19 points in their 2-game stretch on the road against Quinnipiac and Niagara. If she could keep scoring like this, does this give you guys confidence in the team down the stretch to potentially beat the number 1 seeded Fairfield Stags? Brandon, give us the word.
Absolutely. The last time these two teams played, Fairfield only won by 9 at Fairfield. Gal-Revive had another great game, which is what we're coming accustomed to. But the next highest score for the Bobcats was 10, and Martin only had 9. In the 2 MAAC losses this season, the second highest scorer has not scored more than 15 in the game. Meaning when this team gets that secondary scoring, they're very tough to beat. Martin has struggled over the last month, however. From that Iona game back on January 11th to February 1st against Siena, a stretch of 6 games where she failed to score double-digit points, and to no surprise, both of their MAAC losses came in that stretch. Yeah. So despite these struggles, Martin has proved to be an elite scorer for the team over the last 2 years. So I have little doubt if she turns it up, plays to her ability like she has the last couple of games, this team can get over the hump and beat Fairfield. And as this team relies heavily on Revive, as we all know, she has to be the superstar for this team to play. But if you make the defense have to also constantly deal with another threat, Carson Martin, maybe somebody else, if you have to deal with another 18, 19-point scorer, it opens up holes for Gal-Revive to even up her game, and we might see an even better form of her that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, I think I don't have a lot more confidence, honestly, than I had going into the weekend because, similar to men's basketball, the women's basketball teams for Quinnipiac and Niagara were two of the worst in the entire MAAC conference. So yeah, it's good to see that Martin's able to have those performing nights where she's getting, 18, 19 points a game. She averaged almost 20 points a game her senior year of high school. We know that she can produce these types of games, and she was top 25 in the entire state of Georgia. But I think, quite honestly, Jackie Grisdale has to perform a lot better, especially over these last 5 or 6 games. She hasn't scored double figures in the last 4 games and has fallen out of this top 75 in the entire country in three-point percentage and hasn't made a single three-pointer from behind the arc in the last 3 games. That's a cause for concern if you're asking me when it comes to this women's team. And like I said, you can see Martin getting 18, 19 points at any given day, but it's got to be a more well-rounded team if they're going to have a chance to beating Fairfield, and especially when, like I said, there's 7 or 8 games until the MAAC tournament starts, and both of these teams, men's basketball and women's basketball, are going to have to be at their absolute best.
Certainly, and like you said, they need that depth scoring. They only lost by 9, like you said. It's a very close game against what has been a MAAC powerhouse over the last couple of years. Obviously, very close to a national powerhouse for a mid-major school.
Yeah.
And they get that depth. I think they're 100% beating them. Especially that was a game on the road. That was a rowdy atmosphere. They play a game at home or even neutral down at Atlantic City. Yeah. It might be a whole different game if they get that depth scoring.
I think you need to get more production from their front court. Anna Foley has been averaging just over 10 points, but the other forwards that play significant minutes, Grace Labarge, Karanda Perea, Ella O'Donnell, all average just around or just under 6 points a game. You can't be getting that from your middle role players and scoring options when you're trying to compete against a Fairfield team who plays extremely quick. I'm going to talk about it in a couple minutes, but they throw 10 or 11 bodies just in one game. They have fresh legs throughout the entire game, and I think if the Bobcats are going to have to try to get over Fairfield and get over that hump when they play each other once, maybe even twice, they're going to have to play and have a lot more confidence in the rest of their squad.
Certainly.
All right, now switching from Lender Court to Frank Perotti Jr. rink, men's ice hockey currently ranks 15th in the pairwise rankings. What player needs to step up and be the X factor for them to make the NCAA tournament? Connor, enlighten the audience.
Yeah, I think there could be a multiple players. The goaltending hasn't been quite as it been in years past. Obviously, I was gifted with Yaniv Peretz in the first 2 years at Hamden, but I think for actual skaters, it's got to be Jeremy Wilmer. Yes, he has 10 goals, 16 assists, 26 points in just his first season in Hamden, but he has a negative 11 ice rating in his one season here at Quinnipiac. It is worst on the team with Ryan Smith, who's a first year in at Hamden. But at Boston University, where he spent his first 2 years of his college career, he was a plus 16 ice rating. So obviously he has shown that he can be able, when he's on the ice, he's not as a huge liability like he is at Quinnipiac right now. But the game's played in 200 feet. It's not just played in the offensive zone. It's not just played in the defensive zone. It's played the entire 200 feet of the game, And it feels like he wants to show effort or wants to play when he wants to. It's not every time he shifts. Rand Pecknold talks about winning your shift, and it feels like that's a very inconsistent thing that Jeremy Wilmer is dealing with right now.
Yeah, obviously scoring points is important, but there's also obviously 2 sides of the puck, and that kind of leads me into my player, and that's Cooper Moore. When no matter what way you slice it, this has always been a defensive first team, led by the likes of Zach Metza, Jaden Lee, Charles Legault. They've been anchors on the blue line for the past couple of years, and this young team needs a veteran like Cooper Moore to step up. So many times this year, we have seen this team give up bad goals, commit bad turnovers or penalties, and just make mistakes based on their youth. Coming down the stretch, they really do not have much room for error, as they have almost, like we said, have to play perfect hockey to get into the NCAA tournament. And for them to and then something they've really not done for a long stretch this season. They can play here and there a couple periods maybe, but they have not put together for a full game, multiple games in a row. And that's why I think one of the oldest guys on this team, a grad student, needs to step up and set the example for this team. He may not be the one who scores the points, only 9 this year, but he needs to make his presence known in the defensive zone and control the pace of play for this team.
Yeah, I think Jeremy Wilmer is going to be extremely part, but I do agree with Cooper Moore on the defensive side as well.
Unfortunately, we have to take our first break of the night, but when we return, the guys will be heading to the panic meter as all winter sports are gearing up for the playoffs. Bobcat Breakdown will be right back.
Gracie and Pedro might not get along so well.
They're standing on my tail.
But there's one thing they agree on. There's a right seat for everyone.
Oh, that's the good stuff.
Whether you're a dog,
Hold on, Pooch.
a cat, a fish, or a rat.
And I'm a ferret.
Be sure to travel safe.
How can you be so sure?
I'm absolutely positive.
On your next adventure, make sure your children are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Have you ever helped a fellow veteran?
Yes. I do my best reaching out to my brothers and sisters in arms.
Have you ever asked for help yourself?
Most of us, we're not gonna admit that we need to help.
You don't have someone to kind of help you guide those thoughts. It can be really bad.
It's just a beautiful space when someone can trust you and say, listen, I need help.
Everyone has a ritual. That small thing we do to keep us focused.
But what do you do to keep your head in the game?
To drown out the self-doubt and support your mental health.
Because being your best isn't just about taking care of your body.
It's about taking care of your mind and mental health. Find the resources you need to keep your mental health a priority.
Love your mind.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. With both hockey teams just weeks away from the ECAC playoffs and March creeping up on the basketball teams, I want to see how panicked you guys are on each team. The panic meter will appear for each team, and Connor and Brandon will say when to stop showing how little or very panicked they are. Connor, start us off with women's ice hockey.
Yeah, women's ice hockey, one regular season weekend left, but let's pull up this panic meter right now. I'm going to go slightly panicked, right there in the middle. You know, I could say you're leaning more panicked or less, but they're currently right on the bubble in the pairwise, which is number 9, because the NCAA tournament only allows 11 teams for women's ice hockey in right now. For me to I feel like a little less panicked. I think they would have to make it to at least this semifinal matchup, win that opening weekend against probably a lesser, maybe Harvard or Dartmouth, depending on where the seeding ends up after this weekend. But if let's say they make it to that semifinal round, they're going to have to go through Clarkson or St. Lawrence, one of those teams, maybe even Cornell or Colgate. But for me to feel more confident that they're going to get an at-large bid, they're going to have to win and get to that semifinal matchup and probably move up to a 7 or 8 seed, because the ECAC is obviously stacked. But I feel like I'm slightly panicked because they haven't been able to win against some of those good teams. They've shown they can contend, but not defeat. So, Brandon, we'll go to you real quick.
So we can bring that panic meter right back up. And I'm going to stay in the green here. I'm not panicked. I'm not too panicked. Just bring that back a little bit. Thank you. And for a reason for that is they're number 9 in the pairwise, like we discussed. This team is in a good position to finish strong and get into that at-large bid, especially with the last 2 games they have on the season, Union and RPI. Those are teams they should be able to take care of. And they have shown that they can beat those lower teams in the standings. So I think there's no reason to real panic for this team. I think they'll handle business, and it'll be even depending on how the outcome of the ECAC tournament actually unfolds. I think they're in a good spot where they don't have to win to get an at-large bid.
Yeah, currently they're the 6th seed in the ECAC, but Yale is ahead of them in the 5th seed, is playing Cornell and Colgate, so they could potentially make it to a 5 seed and potentially play like that St. Lawrence team or Clarkson like we just played last weekend. But we're going to go to men's ice hockey now. They still got a couple weeks left. We're going to pull up that meter just now, and I'm leaning a little bit more towards the middle, slightly panicked and very panicked. No, it's a great opportunity for men's ice hockey because I honestly feel like they don't have many expectations on them. Obviously, since they've won the national championship, the goal is every year is to win a national championship. But this is a very young team, but they need to win the ECAC tournament this year to get a spot in the NCAA tournament. I feel like at this point, where there are number 15 in the pairwise, you're not going to get an at-large bid because you have teams who are representing smaller conferences who haven't played as tougher schedules that are going to eventually get in because of an automatic qualifier. But I'm honestly not sure what's in the air at Lake Placid because they quite literally haven't won since 2016, and that year they did go to the national championship and losing North Dakota and Tampa Bay, but they've beaten all these teams that they've played in ECAC at least once, and they still have to play Clarkson a second time in the last weekend. But Murdoch, I got to hear what you have to say about this team.
And we can get that panic meter right back up. And I'm in the red this time. This men's ice hockey team like we said, it's a very young team. They've been built. It's a mistake. There's been so many games where it's mistake after mistake. They showed their youth, and don't get me wrong, this is a very talented team. Yeah. But like we said earlier, they have to play almost perfect hockey in order to get that spot in the NCAA tournament. And to be honest, I'm not 100% sure if they can do that, especially with Lake Placid feeling a little bit of their Achilles heel in last couple of years. And to be honest, I don't know if they can get it done to get into that automatic bid.
Yeah, like you said, they're going to have to play perfect hockey. They're going to have to play a full 60 minutes from here on out. Going to have to pretty much clear out their schedule and come out with the win. But we're going to move over to men's basketball now. We're going to stay on that men's side, but over in the basketball center, we're going to take that panic meter right now. I'm feeling a little slightly and fully panicked, kind of in the middle right there, but they haven't had these great opportunities. They've been playing very inconsistent. We talked to head coach Tom Pecora after their game against Quinnipiac last Thursday, and they said that they basically had track practice after that abysmal loss to Siena. I'll say it was abysmal because they need to take ownership of what their roles are. You have to get production from Amari Monroe and Paul Atieno. You have to get Savion Lewis. Got to get 8 assists and have maybe 2 or 3 turnovers. And it's been coming like that, but very inconsistent right now. And that's what scares me a little bit about when they get into March. How are they going to be so consistent? But like you said, it's there's 7 or 8 games left in the year, and I would love to see them get to that point where they are playing well, and like we said, shooting from behind the arc a lot better.
100%. Can we get that meter right back up? Thank you. And I'm going to sit in the yellow. I'm not too worried about this team, mainly because you're going to get from guys like Amari Monroe, Paul Atieno. They're going to be your stars. Like you said earlier, what are you going to get from those other guys? That's got me a little on edge. Yeah. But something that gives me a lot of confidence is how good they have played this season, but shooting so badly from 3. And I know it's just one game. But that game against Niagara kind of gives me confidence. They shot over 50%. Are they getting hot at the right time kind of thing? I think this team, they get going defensively, start playing better on the perimeter, and start shooting the ball the way they know they can, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, we're going to switch over to that one team real quick. That is the women's basketball team. They're 19-3 right now. We're going to take that panic meter, and quite frankly, you don't even need to hit it. Not panicked at all. Oh, not slightly panicked. We're going to roll back a little bit. There we go. Not panicked at all. Every team is going to have stretches where they aren't playing the best, unless, of course, you're the Fairfield women's basketball team has won 36 straight games. But Fabri's talked a lot about playing more of a collective, and I think they're starting to get to that point. I haven't seen it on the court yet, but I'm sure it's happening in practice and behind the scenes. And just the way we talk to him after the post game, it feels like it's that way. But real quick, I want to hear your thoughts about women's basketball as well.
Yeah, we're going to get that panic meter right back. I'm still with you in the green right here. I am not worried about this team at all. We have seen them play at their very best, and they are a very elite team when they're playing the way they can. And we know you're going to get out of Cal Revive. If Carson Martin and Jackie Griswold start picking it up, start playing their capabilities, all of a sudden this team is the team to look out for. In Fairfield, they might have to worry.
Yeah.
It's time to take another short break, but when we return, QBSM will join us to break down the women's lacrosse season starting on Wednesday.
The impact of a meal goes well beyond feeding our bodies. Because when people are fed, futures are nourished. Everyone deserves to live a full life. And with your help, together we can end hunger. Join the movement at feedingamerica.org/act now.
Everyone has a ritual, that small thing that keeps us focused. A habit we never skip to clear our minds and elevate our performance.
But what do you do to keep your head in the game, to drown out the self-doubt and support your mental health? Because being your best isn't just about taking care of your body.
It's about taking care of your mind and mental health. Discover the resources you need to keep your mind focused and your mental health a priority.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. If you're just joining us, I'm Olivia Gruber alongside Connor Corr and Brandon Murdoch. Women's lacrosse starts their season on Wednesday. QBSN broadcasters Seb Lopes and Anthony Rossi are here to give us a sneak peek of what to look for in the team.
We're looking forward to spring sports starting up all over again, and this week is no different, as on Wednesday, the women's lacrosse team will be the first team to kick off their spring sports season against Central Connecticut State University. I will be on the call for QBSN on ESPN Plus as the play-by-play, and Anthony Rossi will be joining alongside me as the color commentary. Anthony, are you as excited for this lacrosse season as I am?
I absolutely am. The women's lacrosse team's kicking off first against CCSU, so let's preview the team.
My first player will be Ella Grace Delman, the 5'5" senior out of Rockville Center, New York, is a stalwart for this Quinnipiac lacrosse team as she'll be coming back once again. She was involved in 35 goals as a midfielder. She's one of those players that really likes to get involved on the attack, being a midfielder, and she's one that you have to watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with the Ella Grace pick, but I'm going to go with her sister as well. Mia was a very good player during her second year here in Hamden as a sophomore. She scored 19 goals, almost hit that 20 mark, 5 assists, 24 points, so not as much production on the offensive side as her sister as they dominated the MAAC. So let's see some calls from both of them.
Because they scored on almost every time, but now here's Mia Delman, cuts inside, got some space, shoots and scores! An immediate response from the Bobcats, and it's 7-5.
Now in front again, it's Ella Grace, gets wrapped up again. Nikoloff now behind, back to Ella Grace, Delman, and she'll score! A snipe shot from Delman.
Going back to last season was that they had some big goaltending issues that they really have to figure out and resolve this season if they're going to make any kind of a threat in their conference. Now, one of their main forces was Lindsay Mizuko, the 5'2" senior coming out of Fairhaven, New Jersey. Despite her height issues, she can really be a force for the Bobcats in between the pipes. She also played 713 minutes of the 894 by the team and had a .403 save percentage despite a 13.21 goals against average. So, let's take a look at one of Lindsay Mizuko's best saves of the season.
So Kenny will come back in, another defender in for the Bobcats. Now only one-man advantage, but Goldie in a save.
Yeah, some goaltending is very good for the team. We'll talk about a little bit of defense, but on the attack side, Abby Wise is an attacker, and she really likes to transition very well into the midfield, and she plays very good on defense. She contributed a lot on the offensive standpoint as well. 13 goals, 16 assists, and 29 points, which was good for third on the entire team. She hit a lot of her shots on net and was able to create chances for her team. So, with that being said, let's take a look at her best goal of the season.
Amy Nikoloff at the top, moving to her right, finds inside, shoots and scores! Abby Wise.
It's all going to be huge come that first game for this women's lacrosse team. It's not too long of a wait, though, Anthony, as on 2 o'clock on Wednesday, Anthony and I will have the call on ESPN+.
Thanks, Deb and Anthony. So, guys, now that we've heard who to look out for, will we see growth in the women's lacrosse team with it being Jordan Christopher's second season in Hamden? Brandon, tell us about the team on the turf.
I feel so. Frankly, I think it's hard not to go up after only a 2-win season from a year ago. A lot of new faces, a lot of incoming freshmen this year. So a lot to be excited about with this program. And at the end of the day, having a confirmed head coach for years to come, I think it goes a lot of way to buying in and believability because you know the coach is going to be here. It's not just a one-year thing. It's a lot easier to just appreciate their message and really take it to heart.
Yeah, I think Jordan Christopher was the assistant coach before she was promoted to interim. But I really do think in the second year there's going to be minor improvements. Like I said, going from 2 wins, you only really can go up, unless of course you have 1 win or 0 wins altogether. But they finished 96th in the RPI rankings, possible 127th. I think the biggest question coming into this year and who's going to be their goaltender. Last year Lindsay Mizuko was only 1-11 the entire year in her 14 starts. So obviously having a back netminder, it's a lot like hockey as well, where if you have a good netminder, the players on the outside are going to feel a lot more confident heading into the season, heading into any given game. And that's just the biggest question right now for this women's lacrosse team, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, defensive. We talk about it with hockey. Defensively, the biggest thing with lacrosse, it's the exact same thing. You need trust in your goalie. You need a goalie to play at a high level in order for your team to have success. Obviously, it wasn't that case last year, but this year hopefully it'll be better. Yeah.
All right. Well, we have to take one last break, but when we come back, we'll be giving our final rush. So don't go anywhere.
Life's daily battles are not meant to be fought alone.
We're not powerless, so long as we don't lose sight of what's important.
Don't be afraid to seize that moment to talk to your friends.
Cloud, you okay?
Because checking in on a friend can create a safe space.
The first step on our new journey. You coming?
Reach out to a friend about their mental health. Seize the awkward. It's totally worth it.
Elmer loves to giggle. Elmer's mommy taught him that laughing can help when you have a big feeling, like when you feel happy. Make sure to celebrate when you're happy and laugh it out. Love your mind.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. It's time for our final roars, and I'll start us off. As spring sports start tomorrow, I would like to take a moment to talk about my experience as a beat reporter. Softball is the sport I know and love to the moon and back. I've been playing it since 2nd grade, but now that I'm in college, I've backed away from it, but not forever, as I'm focusing on a career in sports media. As a softball beat reporter for Q30, I have filmed home games and have been able to make connections with the coaching staff and players through press conferences and the content that I have made. Those interactions are important because making connections in any sport or career path you may have is very important, no matter how easy or hard it may be. It's okay to be nervous when talking to people because after a while, those people will know your name and even guide you in the right direction. It does not matter who you talk to. That person that you start with could be that person that gets you into your possible dream job after college. I would like to thank everyone that I have been able to connect with for taking the time out of their busy lives to help guide me towards my dreams.
For a long time, when people have thought about Quinnipiac athletics, their mind goes onto the ice, and deservingly so, as the men's and women's hockey teams have been nationally ranked for a long time. But over the last 2 seasons, there seems to be a changing of the guard. The men's and women's basketball teams are now on the rise. The women's team is neck and neck with MAAC powerhouse Fairfield, and are looking to get back to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2019. The men's side, for the 2nd consecutive season, is at the top of the standings and look like a legitimate threat to write their own story and get into the NCAA tournament for the first time in the program's history. So make sure to go out and support as they both look to make noise in the postseason. While Quinnipiac might be labeled as a hockey school, the basketball teams are giving students and fans a reason to be excited about both sides of the M&T Bank Arena.
There is actually 1 month until the first day of the MAAC basketball tournament down in Atlantic City. I would not be surprised to see Quinnipiac women's basketball taking on the Fairfield Stags in the championship game by the end of the tournament. There are 7 games until the top 10 teams need to be at their absolute best. But what do the Bobcats need to look like to get to the NCAA tournament for the first time since the 2018-2019 season? They need to get more production from their role players. 4 players are averaging double figures. After that is a huge drop-off. Senior captain guard Jackie Grisdale has not scored double figures since January 25th, a far fall from the same player who scored 33 earlier in the season and was in the top 25 in three-point shooting percentage in the entire country. Everyone knows what they're going to get from Gallervive, but over the next few weeks, you can expect the rotation to get tighter if players cannot produce when it matters most. Fairfield has won 36 conference games, due in large part because of the deep bench that they consistently rely on. If Quinnipiac wants to end that winning streak, that production, that can be measured in plenty of ways, to be fair, has to pick up to add to 2025 to their championship banner at the Lender Court.
So with spring sports starting tomorrow, what spring sport team are you most excited to see?
Yeah, no, honestly, I think the baseball team has got a lot of excitement around them. I know they have had a lot of transfers, especially over the last two seasons. I think like 66% of their roster has been transfers over the last 2 years. But there seems to be a little bit more different excitement than there has been the past few years. So I'm really looking excited to getting back to the diamond.
Yeah, certainly baseball will be a lot of fun. A lot of runs from that team, and I think there's a lot more pitching additions this year. So if they can get that locked in, a little bit lower ERAs, I think this team will be a team on the rise.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have here tonight on Bobcat Breakdown. Thanks for tuning in and spending your evening with us. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and X at Q30 Sports, and check out our website at Q30TV.com. Thank you to the producers and everyone for working hard behind the scenes. For Connor Corey and Brandon Murdoch, I'm Olivia Gruber, and have a great night, Bobcats.